Hello and welcome to the Real World Podcast. My name's Cameron, and thank you so much for joining us here on the Real World YouTube channel. Be sure to give us a like, hit the subscribe button down below, hit the bell to get notifications of all our videos here at the Real World. Thank you so much for the support. We hope you enjoy this episode. This one is all about the DC universe, and I'm joined again by my brother Carson. How you doing?
Hey, great. Good to be here. We're glad to talk about the DC universe. I'm
We're
a big
both
DC fans.
Yeah, we're both huge DC
Um,
fans. Grew up watching
mhm.
the DC animated universe
Right,
and all
right.
those
Yeah.
shows, and so we go to every DC movie together. And we
Yeah.
just saw
Mhm.
Black Adam, so that's the big subject here. We're going to give you our review of Black Adam. We're also going to rank every movie in the DC extended universe. Let's jump in first, though, with some movie news. All right, so before we jump into our Black Adam review and our DCEU ranking, we wanted to cover some movie news. There wasn't a ton of movie news this week, but there was some DC related movie news. So we're going to cover just the DC stuff that dropped. Probably the biggest one that dropped was that a new Superman film is in development. And so,
This is good news.
yes, this is very good news. We've been waiting a long time for Henry Cavill's return, and
Do we have any directors attached,
no
or
director,
we
no
just
writer.
know Henry Cavill in the
Henry Cavill's
DCEU?
back in the DCEU, and there have been some interviews with Christopher McQuarrie, who directed Henry
Right.
Cavill in Mission Impossible Fallout.
Okay.
And I guess while they were on set, they had multiple conversations
That's
about
cool.
what their Superman movie would be.
Good. Yeah.
So, I mean,
I mean,
McQuarrie, he's a great
Yeah,
director.
Mission Impossible Fallout is basically a Superman movie. Ethan Hunt goes through a very
Right,
similar kind of Superman-y arc in
right.
that movie.
And
So
Henry Cavill plays the villain. He
right,
plays like
right.
Bizarro or
Yeah,
something like in
yeah,
that movie.
right.
So yeah, and that was, that movie ties into the DC universe in a funny way because that's the movie he did right after Justice League.
It's the mustache film.
He had the mustache. They had to do reshoots. They had
Right.
to erase the mustache. So yeah, it's all tied in, and it would be just the irony.
It would be poetic
It would
justice
be poetic justice if Christopher McQuarrie came back
to
and
do a
did a
Superman movie.
Superman movie. So yeah, he could end up writing it. He may not direct it. He may write and direct. Other names that have been thrown around: Brad Bird, who already made the best
I
Superman
know the
movie,
Iron
Iron
Giant.
Giant.
Yeah.
J.J. Abrams, he was working on a Superman movie for a long time back in his
Right.
early days.
Yeah, it was a weird one.
He wrote a weird script
Weird
called Superman
ideas.
Flyby.
Lex Luthor, Kryptonian
Yeah,
stuff.
right. Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
So, but the hashtag that's trending right now is hashtag bring back Zack Snyder. Because of course Snyder started this whole thing with Man of Steel.
Sure.
So a lot of fans want him back, me included.
Okay.
I would love to have him come back and complete his story.
I'm fine with him coming back and finishing his idea he had for the Justice League sequels.
Right.
But for a Superman movie, I'd rather it be
Okay.
someone new.
Okay.
If
I
it's
would I
just a
wouldn't mind that.
standalone
Sure.
Superman thing,
Right.
I think somebody else could do something
Yeah, I
different.
mean, there's so many different things you can do, and that's what's great about the comics. We've got all this history,
Mhm.
all these different writers and artists come in, and so yeah, I would like to see a new vision for the character.
Right.
It would be interesting. So we'll just have to wait and see what ends up happening with that. The villain, who would you want the villain to be?
Well, there's so many Superman villains we
So many
haven't seen
great
on,
ones.
on
I
screen.
haven't seen, yeah.
We haven't seen Parasite. We haven't seen Metallo. We haven't seen
All we've really seen is Zod.
Livewire.
All we've really seen is Zod and Lex Luthor.
Zod and Lex. Nixie Spitlick would be a cool one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
that's kind of a like silly cosmic,
Yeah.
funny
That
kind
would be
of
very
character.
different. Yeah, played by Gilbert Gottfried in the animated series
Right.
perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Metallo. I
Mhm.
always thought he would make a great villain because he's a cyborg powered by kryptonite. And
Right.
so that would make a good character. Parasite, like you mentioned, he's a guy who can absorb Superman's powers by
Right.
touching him. Mongol would be an interesting one if you want to go cosmic.
War World. Because
Yeah.
I'm thinking with this movie, we've already done a grounded and gritty Superman
Right.
with Snyder's movies.
Sure.
I'm thinking you just have to go beyond Earth.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
if you're establishing Superman as the universe's most powerful hero,
Yeah, that's a good
I think
point.
you should step out of just the realm of Earth and have him
Right,
go
right.
onto different planets
Yeah.
and deal with all kinds of other stuff.
Sure, sure. Yeah, that'd be a good way to go. You know, if you bring Brainiac in, that could be an interesting way where you could have stuff in space and on Earth. And I really want Supergirl to join because
Supergirl would be
I
cool.
mean, Snyder even kind of set it up with that empty pod
Sure.
on the ship, you know, that we see in
Yeah.
Man of Steel.
Hmm.
Sasha Calley has been cast in the Flash movie
Yes,
as
as Supergirl.
Supergirl.
Yeah.
So we've already got the casting there. Have to wait and see.
We'll see. The future looks bright for the DC
Future is
universe.
bright.
There's a
Future is
lot.
bright.
There's a lot more we can do now
True, true.
than we could have before.
Yeah. So the other piece of news that dropped was that the Flash sequel has already been written.
Wow.
So
Okay.
they've already got a sequel script ready to go.
Hmm.
Now, this movie doesn't come out till June of next year. So we've got a while to wait still.
Right.
But with all the controversy surrounding Ezra Miller, we don't know what's going to happen there. So people are
It's
thinking
kind of
they could
easy.
recast.
Yeah, it's kind of easy with Flash to do another Flash.
Yeah, because there's Wally West.
Wally West.
There's Jay Garrick.
Right.
There's,
Yeah.
Bart Allen.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Jesse
all kinds of
Quick. You can do whatever.
right. Or you could even do an alternate version of Barry, with time travel shenanigans,
Yeah.
alternate dimensions, multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a great, if they want to go Barry Allen, they've got a great Barry Allen on TV. Grant Gustin. Really like him in that role.
No, I don't think they'll bring him in.
Yeah, I think he's
done.
probably done. He's done it for 9
Yeah.
years. He's probably done.
I'm so tired of his Flash. I'm ready for something different.
Yeah. Right.
And that was
exactly.
kind of what Ezra Miller brought. It was
Mhm.
something different
Right.
with Zack Snyder's Justice League. Him in that movie.
Yes,
It
exactly.
was really cool. Different
Right.
than what we had seen before with the
Mhm.
character.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
if the Flash gets a sequel, right? So this first movie looks like it's a multiverse story. He's traveling back in time. It's kind of the Flashpoint thing.
Sure.
Probably Zoom is going to be the villain, or Reverse Flash. He's got a great rogues gallery too.
one of the best in the
I
DC
would
universe.
I would love to see Mirror Master.
Beer Master, the Trickster.
The Trickster's good.
Let's see Captain Cold
Captain
finally,
Cold,
and his arch
sure.
nemesis Captain Cold.
Right. Weather Wizard.
Weather Wizard would be great.
Do the whole. You can do the whole.
Abracadabra.
You can do the whole rogues gallery.
Yeah, Flash's
Yeah.
Rogues. They
Yeah.
call themselves Flash's
That could be
Rogues.
the title of the film.
That would be cool.
Flash's Rogues,
Yeah.
and it's literally more about them. And he's like,
That could be a more street level,
right,
small scale.
which is I think the way they should go. After going huge with
Right.
Flashpoint, you need to bring it back down.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I feel like about Superman. It's
Right.
like all these epic Zack Snyder movies. We can kind of bring it back down a little bit.
Mhm.
Other news that broke: the Batman is developing multiple spin-offs for villains, including Scarecrow, Clayface, and Professor Pig. Now we've already got Penguin coming up, his own show on HBO Max.
Right.
Colin Farrell's back.
Mhm.
Matt Reeves is helping produce and I think write it. They obviously want to build out that whole side of the DC universe where it's its own separate thing, building out Gotham and all this. Arkham Asylum. They're doing an Arkham Asylum show.
Right. So that's what I wanted to mention was
Mhm.
it seems to me like setting up all these different characters, Scarecrow and Clayface, it's not necessarily guaranteeing that they're going to be in the Batman 2 or in
Right.
the Batman 3 or whatever.
Sure.
It's just setting them up in this universe
Mhm.
in the same style and tone as the Batman.
Right. Exactly.
And I like that in the Batman, it's already established that Arkham exists. He's already faced Joker. He's already
Yep.
faced
That's
other
right.
villains.
Yep.
He uses Bane Venom in that movie.
Yeah.
So it's
right.
like all of this kind of stuff has already been happening. He's been Batman
Sure.
for a full year already.
Yep.
So it's cool that they're still establishing that stuff, that there's
Right.
already a history there.
Yeah.
And
I like
exploring that would be interesting.
Yeah.
That's why I think an Arkham show would be really cool.
Mhm.
Like going into let's assume it was like narrated by Hugo Strange or whatever.
Yeah.
And this is something they did in the Arkham games.
Right.
Was
Okay.
they had like files for each character.
Ah,
And it was
okay.
like interviews with the characters.
right.
And they would tell you their backstory.
Okay.
And it could be something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. That could work really well.
There's a lot of potential because Batman's rogues all personify some kind of aspect of Batman.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
Getting a better picture of who he is.
Right. And we still have
Through
a
his
younger
villains.
Batman.
Right.
He's in year
Right.
2 of his,
Mhm.
vigilantism. So yeah, there's a lot to build out there. The Penguin show, Colin Farrell was interviewed. He said it picks up directly after the Batman.
Mhm.
Like he's still in Falcone's office, his ankles deep in water.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where they end up taking it. Obviously, the Batman 2 is happening.
Mhm.
The villain in that movie, who could it be? I kind of want Freeze.
I don't
Kind of
know.
want Freeze. They could do all kinds of different things. A little bit more DC news, a couple other movies in development. James Gunn, who directed The Suicide Squad, he's known for his Guardians of the Galaxy films over at Marvel as well. He is working on a mystery DC project. We don't know who it's going to be about, which character he's chosen to go after next.
It's probably going to be Kite Man or some kind of obscure group of misfits.
Right.
Yeah, team up and fight a big monster, right. Like all of his movies.
That's right. That's what he does. He does it well.
He does. He does.
Yeah, Suicide Squad. I mean, who would have thought that Polka Dot Man would have been a standout character in a film?
Hey, it'd be cool if he did the Forever People from New Genesis.
Oh yeah,
if he did some kind of like super sci-fi, super silly like space characters.
Right. That would be fun.
Yeah,
that would be fun. Yeah, he went cosmic with the Guardians.
Sure.
He went grounded with Suicide Squad. And now he can go cosmic again.
I guess he could go magic. He could do Just Like Dark.
That would be interesting. Yeah.
Mystic.
Yeah.
Because those are the avenues of DC. It has cosmic, street level, mystic, like sciencey.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could do a bunch of stuff.
When he first made the Suicide Squad, there were all these rumors about all these spin-offs he wanted to do. And, we got the Peacemaker show.
Sure.
Which was really well done. And so will it be another Suicide Squad character, like a Ratcatcher movie or a backstory on Polka Dot Man or Bloodsport getting his own movie? It could be any of those things. So we'll just have to wait and see what that ends up being, but it should be interesting. All right. Next was Wonder Woman 3 is officially in development. The script is being written. Gal Gadot is coming back as Wonder Woman. Patty Jenkins is returning to direct. So she will be the director of the entire Wonder Woman trilogy, which is always great, I think, when you get that consistency.
That's fun. And Gal Gadot also being the one of the Justice League Trinity who's been like totally constant with the character, has had no problems coming back.
Right.
But Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck have always kind of been a little in and out. What are we doing? I don't like this. And
I know.
It looks like, again, the future's getting brighter.
Yes.
We have the confirmed Ben Affleck in Aquaman 2, at least a cameo.
That's right. Yeah. He's coming back.
And then we have, of course, Henry Cavill in his new Superman movie.
Sure.
We could get another Justice League film just around the corner.
I'm very hopeful for these things. So
Green Lantern, we got to get that Green Lantern movie out.
Gotta get Green Lantern in there. I mean, there's so much they could do. Blue Beetle's coming though.
That's
exciting. That's exciting.
Very excited for Blue Beetle.
Right. But Wonder Woman 3, we've had 2 Wonder Woman movies. We both like both of those Wonder Woman movies. One a little more than the other. But this third one, first of all, I think it's going to be modern day.
Okay.
Because we had, the one set in World War One set in the 80s. Now I think we're going to jump to present day. I'm just curious what that story is, because where she is, where we leave her, where we saw her last in Zack Snyder's Justice League, she's kind of got the hope back, but she's kind of worried about Themyscira because of what Steppenwolf told her.
Right.
So I think it is going to be a return home for Diana. And so
there's so many fun Wonder Woman characters, because hers is very mythological.
Correct.
It's the Greek and Roman pantheon.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, I guess they kind of did Ares already, but you can still do like.
Well, I would do Cersei. I think Cersei is a great pick because it's a character that you can have already established on Themyscira, even though we haven't seen her yet.
Right.
You could have her established there. They've known each other, and she could maybe be trying to change the leadership and Themyscira, take over for Hippolyta or something. You can have some kind of coup happen or something like that. So there's all kinds of ways you could go with it.
You can always just adapt the kid stuff story from Justice League, do Morgan Le Fay, and have her come in and turn everyone into kids.
That's right. Yeah, that could be fun. That could be fun. Bring in Shazam, do a little team up.
That'd be great. Hey, you could combine the Young Justice episode arc and the Justice League episode.
Exactly.
Into one story.
And they're both tied into the same kind of
all the
pantheon of Greek and Roman gods. So it would make sense.
That'd be awesome. It's not going to happen.
It could even tie in with Black Adam.
In Shazam.
There you go.
That would be awesome. It's not gonna happen.
But she's got a pretty good rogues gallery. Silver Swan is an interesting character. They could do Giganta. I like a lot.
Giganta's very fun. Gotta do Giganta.
So
I guess you could do Gorilla Grodd if you're doing Giganta.
That's true. Yeah, bring in Flash. He would make a great Flash villain too.
Yeah.
Lots of potential.
Mix them all together.
Lots of potential. Yeah.
Every film's a Justice League film.
Might as well. All right, so that's it for movie news. Now we're going to jump into our review of Black Adam. This is the new DC movie starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in the role that he has been dying to play for 15 years. Yes, 2007 was when he was announced as this character. He was first cast before the MCU was a thing, well before the Man of Steel came out or anything. So this is a long time coming.
It is.
We've been waiting for this for a while.
It's been a labor of love for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
It has.
And I think it paid off relatively well.
I think it paid off. He's very passionate about this character. He's passionate about the DC universe. He's a big fan. And so he teamed up with a director that he's teamed up with multiple times, Jaume Collet-Serra.
Cool.
Who made Jungle Cruise, which I wasn't a huge fan of. It was fine, you know. Sure. He also made a movie I really like called The Shallows, though. It was really good.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting director. He's made several movies with Liam Neeson as well.
Right.
So they team up on this movie, and you know, it's a movie that's, you know, obviously gone through a lot of different development stages, and they clearly establish it in the DCEU.
Right.
Which I think was obviously the right choice.
Yeah. One of the first things I really noticed and wanted to talk about was Dwayne Johnson as an actor in this movie.
Sure.
Because he's doing something he doesn't normally do.
Right.
Normally, I've had this terrible problem with him and Ryan Reynolds and all of the big name Hollywood actors,
right,
where they aren't acting.
They're movie stars. They're playing themselves. The audiences come to see them.
They're just big personalities, and they have no characters, and they're just whatever.
Right.
But this, he performed, and he did something different.
Yeah.
And he wasn't silly and funny.
Right.
And he took it all very seriously.
Yeah.
And I think that really added a lot to the weight and gravity of the movie.
I totally agree. He, like I said, he's definitely a fan. He's read the comics. He knows who this character is, and he plays him very seriously. You know, it's a very serious character. He's got a tragic backstory. He's not, you know, cracking jokes and one-liners the whole time.
Sure.
So yeah, it is one of his better performances, I would say, because he really is playing this character. And so, that's an aspect of the movie I thought was really well done. In fact, all of the casting I felt was really strong.
I cannot believe we got the Justice Society.
Yes.
In a mainstream blockbuster film.
Right. So the Justice Society, for those who don't know, this is the first DC team. This is the first superhero team ever, actually. Before the Justice League, before the Avengers, before the X-Men, it was the Justice Society. So they were established way back in the 40s in the comic books. And we get some great Justice Society characters. We get Hawkman, as played by Aldous Hodge. I thought he was really good in the role.
Right.
Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate, who I think was the standout character for me. He did a really good job playing his part. Noah Centineo as Adam Smasher, who
very cool,
was really fun.
Adam
really
Smasher
fun
Jr., pretty much.
Right, exactly.
The nephew of the original.
He
Adam
takes
Smasher.
over from the original.
Right.
And then Quintessa Swindell as Cyclone, who is a character we've never seen. We've never seen any of these characters in a live action film before. We've seen several of them in Smallville.
Right. I was going to mention that's the only live action outing of the Society I can think of, where we got Hawkman and we got Dr. Fate and we got, you know, Stargirl and whatever.
Exactly. Right. I don't know if the Arrowverse ever had any of them. They might have had Fate.
I know they had Hawk Girl. I'm not sure if they did Hawkman or not.
They did Hawkman in Legends of Tomorrow, I think.
Okay.
Very briefly.
You're probably right.
So we get all these characters together, and you know they all are well cast. I feel like they all, you know, had specific personalities that were distinct. So the casting was on point. Direction was good overall, I would say. The movie, it's structured pretty well. I like how, you know, we start with the prologue, getting his backstory. And there ends up being a little bit of a twist with his backstory that is revealed later in the film.
It's kind of a Regimon thing.
But it was telegraphed in the trailers. If you've seen the trailers, I think the opening line of the trailer gives away what the twist is, which was an odd choice, but
whatever.
Yeah,
at
that's not point, the movie's fault.
The script is probably so old, and just like The Rock has probably just known the story for so long that he doesn't even really think about everyone not knowing it. So
exactly. So
as a film, just within the context of the movie, I think it works relatively well.
I think it does too. We get this interesting backstory. We get this, kind of mythology around Black Adam and who he is, how he became this champion of this country called Kahndaq, which is a country in the comics. It's very popular. A lot of history there. So all of that was well done. I think the strengths of this film are the cinematography. Camera work was really well done. Mm-hmm. The visual effects are top notch throughout.
It's a colorful action superhero movie.
It's all of it's in the daylight. I mean, it's
every complaint I have about the MCU action sequences that are formulaic and gray,
right,
and done all in previs, and just like none of it's even. They're just stock.
Yeah,
plug into the movie.
Sure.
Whereas this is more creative. It's colorful.
Yep.
It's fluid.
It has weight to it.
Yeah.
I mean, the first action sequence with Black Adam is really intense.
It might be the best action sequence in the movie.
It's very, very well done. It reminded me of the Man of Steel kind of action sequences where we really saw his power and his speed, which was really, really well done. He's of course got the lightning too, which is a new element. So that was great. All of the action sequences I really don't have any complaints about. As we go on throughout the movie, they start to get a little repetitive.
Sure.
Where he's fighting these goons again. He kind of fights goons a lot. Once the Justice Society comes in, that becomes a new dynamic, but that starts to get a little repetitive as well. So overall, I think it was well done. One thing I noticed that I think was cut out that I saw in the trailer was the airplane sequence. Remember when he's flying next to two jets? I didn't remember that in the film.
I
think that was cut out.
It probably was.
Yeah. This movie did get cut down significantly because when they took it to the MPA, they gave them an R rating. And they obviously wanted it to be PG-13. So they did have to cut significant portions out in order to get it down to where they needed it to be. It was very violent. It's still very violent. It's still probably the most brutal. I mean, I would say right next to BVS.
Sure.
As far as the brutality of the action sequences, he's a hero kind of without a moral code. That's kind of his thing. He's an anti-hero is what they call him. So he's a little more
he's a villain.
Gung-ho. He's a villain, right? Exactly. So another aspect of the movie I really liked was the musical score. Lauren Balfe, who's worked on some great scores recently, I think he really did a good job of getting that undercurrent of emotion through, and adding the intensity and the excitement to the action sequences. So really liked his stuff. He kind of had a great theme for each character,
right?
And all that was well done. Some things that maybe didn't work as well, I want to discuss as well, because it's not a perfect movie. I think the script needed some more work.
Sure.
I think it was a little clunky. The dialogue was a little hokey at times. And
I don't know how much of this whole is true, but to me, it feels like since this movie's been in development for so long, I can feel the different eras of the DC universe.
Yeah, of just comic book genre.
Right, of just kind of some things feel very
2007
Snydery. Some things feel very 2007.
Right.
Some things feel very modern. So it's it's interesting to see a movie that's been in development this long.
Yeah.
How it changes and how those changes are evident just in watching it.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. And I think, I appreciate a movie that tries to be a crowd pleaser, and that's definitely what he was going for here.
Sure.
I would have preferred him lean into the more villainous aspects more, and the darker side of things. I think that would have worked better. Here, they do try to, they definitely put in humor that just doesn't always land for me.
Sure.
The dialogue, the things that just don't mesh well with where I felt like the story wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
That I think certain aspects of the dialogue in the script held it back from
The
doing. So
the villain is the weakest part of the movie to me.
villain is totally forgettable.
The
It's totally
villain,
generic.
it's a She-Hulk villain
Right.
where he gets the powers of the bad guy or the
Yeah.
main good guy and has to
Mhm.
fight him.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just formulaic, and
Yeah. It's every
that's another thing that kind of plays into that's a very 2010s
Mhm.
superhero thing.
Right.
That was kind of
Yeah,
just,
it's Iron Man, it's Ant-Man, it's all
right.
those, you
Yeah.
know, the villain is the evil reflection of the hero,
Mhm.
and it's that kind of thing. So that's definitely a forgettable aspect of it as well. The Justice Society, we mentioned, we really like those characters. They just could have used more development, I feel like, you know.
Sure.
We get a good relationship between Hawkman and Dr. Fate. There's definitely history there
Mhm.
that they hint at.
Mhm.
And then, you know, the newcomers, Atom Smasher and Cyclone, kind of have an interesting
Yeah, they
relationship,
have good
but
chemistry.
it's just there's not quite enough depth there.
Sure.
But you know, again, this is a setup. You know,
Mhm.
this is Dwayne Johnson said this is phase one, what he looks at as phase one of the DC universe.
Mhm.
So it's the setup. It's kind of a first iteration, if you
Right.
will, even though it is building on what's come before.
Mhm.
So those are aspects that I think, you know, could have used some refinement. You know, but overall, it's just a fun movie. It's just I had a blast watching it.
Mhm.
It is, you know, exciting and interesting, and like I said, it gives us hope for the future. So
Well, that's what my main takeaway from the movie
yeah,
is the hierarchy of power in the DC universe has changed.
yes,
And that is that both on screen and behind the scenes
yes,
of that interesting dynamic that's going on and the changes we're seeing in DC as a company.
right. What was your overall rating for Black Adam as a movie? What is your star rating out of 5 stars?
I gave it a 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5. That's a good score.
It was a 3 out of 5.
I was at three out of 5, and then the mid credit scene happened, and I gave it an extra half star. So I'm at 3.5 out of 5.
All right.
Because you know, again, it's a fun movie. It's enjoyable to watch. It's not anything deep. It's not anything, you know.
It's a pretty generic.
Great.
Yeah, it's your pretty generic superhero action movie.
Right.
It's a little darker and more
Mhm.
violent than your
Mhm.
typical MCU thing.
Yep. Unique lead character.
Yeah, definitely more morally challenged
Right,
character
right.
as your lead.
Mm-hmm.
Dwayne Johnson doesn't do his typical funny, fun
Right.
stuff,
Right.
but there is still humor in it, and is still,
Sure.
again, colorful and
Mhm.
actiony.
Yep.
But probably again more violent and
Yeah.
mature.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, that's where we are on Black Adam. Let us know your review in the comments below. I'd love to have a conversation with you about it. Yeah, so let's get into spoilers now. All right, so spoiler alert right now. If you have not seen Black Adam and you don't want anything ruined for you, we're going to talk about every detail of the movie in depth, including that post-credit scene. So this movie is, as we said, tied in directly to the DCEU in multiple ways. So we get Amanda Waller back. Viola Davis returns as this character. She's the one who sends the Justice Society on the mission to
Last time
check
we
on Black
saw her
Adam.
was the Suicide Squad, right? She wasn't in Peacemaker.
She does have a cameo in Peacemaker at the very end.
Oh, okay.
She talks to her niece or her daughter.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Sorry.
So that was the last time we saw her.
Right. And there's a Peacemaker character in this, which is cool.
Yeah. So Jennifer Holland shows up as Amelia Harcourt in this movie, which is a really cool tie-in to James Gunn's Suicide Squad. She actually just married James Gunn.
Oh, that's cool.
Recently.
Yeah.
They got married. So it was great to see her back in that tie-in. We of course get Djimon Hounsou as the wizard Shazam. Shows up with the whole council of wizards who we hadn't seen before. That was a great moment that tied in and kind of, you know, got into the mythology, and that's what ties it into Shazam.
And
even though Shazam isn't really referenced.
Right. There's a brief scene where it seems like Black Adam destroys the other wizards, so that he's the only one left.
He's the one.
So it kind of explains why, oh, okay, there was only just the one when we saw it.
I want to say they reference that, maybe not directly reference it, but they talk a little bit about it in Shazam when he's talking about his first champion and how he failed and all that. So yeah, that was a great tie-in, and I'm curious to see if Black Adam shows up in Shazam Fury of the Gods, which is coming out in March. So we'll have to
We'll
wait and
see.
see. The whole twist of the movie, I guess we can discuss and how that works is, Teth Adam, the character played by Dwayne Johnson, is actually not who we think he is. The beginning of the movie sets up that it's this young boy
Mm-hmm.
who is granted this power by the wizards.
This young boy whose father happens to be Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Correct.
Which is weird that they show us that.
Well, they didn't actually show us. We heard him in the opening scene.
He looks like Dwayne Johnson.
They specifically don't show his face.
Sure, they don't show his face.
But it is a CGI down.
It's a Steve Rogers body.
Right,
yeah.
exactly. So they Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
Put Dwayne's face on some other actor, so he looks smaller.
Which there was a shot or two that looked pretty rough.
Yeah, it wasn't the best. It wasn't as good as Captain America: First Avenger, but it was fine because it wasn't that much screen time. So yeah, the twist is that the father is actually Black Adam. This is the character we've been following this whole time, not the son. And so that was, again, it was handled pretty well. I thought it worked for the movie.
It's important for his character, and it's kind of like his whole arc he goes through is this like
everyone thinks he's this champion, but he's really not.
Right.
He's not a good guy. He's the one that created the chaos in Kondak, And so yeah, that was good, and it tied in well, I thought. Let's see. Oh, we get the great Henry Winkler coming in as the original Adam, which is great. Talking, it's just a FaceTime cameo. He didn't have to do very much work.
He literally phoned in his performance.
Literally. And so, but that was just a fun cameo. I like the actor a lot. We watch him on Barry, and we like that actor a lot. So that was fun to see him. You know what I like was the ending. I guess we can talk about what happened to Dr. Fate as well.
Right. Yeah. So
Fate the whole time is having these visions.
Right. There were interesting things they did with Dr. Fate that I wasn't totally on board with while watching it.
Okay.
But in hindsight, it makes sense.
Yeah. I thought it really worked. Right. I really like this aspect of the movie where Dr. Fate, he's having these visions this whole time. He's telling Hawkman, I'm seeing the end of the world. This is a big deal. This is why they really go out and try to stop this guy. And he sees Hawkman's death.
Right.
And so the whole time you're waiting for, is Hawkman going to die? Is someone going to step in and save him? And of course, it is Dr. Fate who ends up stepping in and saying, no, I'm going to change fate.
Right.
And so there's this great battle sequence with him and Spock. And he ends up being the one who dies.
Right.
So Pierce Brosnan, again, great performance all the way through. Probably the most emotional aspect of the movie, I think.
Okay.
So that plays out really well. The part that I didn't care for, and of course, we're deep into the comics, so we know how this stuff works. And they change certain aspects, and I get they have to do that. It's totally fine.
Right.
Hawkman ends up picking up the helmet and using it without putting it on, which
I think
it's part of Kent Nelson.
Right.
Is still in there helping him do that. That's how I justified it in my mind.
Because Kent Nelson, he even says in the movie that he's older than he should ever have been.
He's hundreds of years old. Right. There should have been more stakes there.
He should have put on the helmet. That's what I'm saying. Hawkman should have put on the helmet and become the new next Dr. Fate.
I agree. But
that's it. That's all you have to do.
Right. But it'll be passed on to someone else.
I realize why they didn't. I mean, I was thinking maybe Atom Smasher might put on the helmet for a minute. Because there's a scene that's set up earlier with he's about to touch the helmet just for fun.
Right.
She's like, don't touch it because it'll make you crazy.
And
then Hawkman touches it later and it's not a big deal at all.
Yeah.
So. But anyways, I thought it would have been cool if Atom Smasher's like,
here's what I would have done. Hawkman puts it on, right? He takes off his Hawk helmet. He puts on the new helmet. He defeats Sabak. And then we go into the helmet realm or whatever. And he and Kent are there.
Yeah.
And he basically, like Nabu, who is the one who possesses you.
So this is Young Justice.
He's the one who actually lets Hawkman go. And he lets him take it off.
Okay.
Because he has a different fate
It's
that
not,
he has to fulfill.
Yeah, it's not Young Justice. That's not the focus of the movie.
Right.
Which is fine.
Yeah, I get that.
That's why it works so well in Young Justice because that's the focus of the episode is Aqualad puts on the helmet and it's like, is he gone forever? Are we never going to get Aqualad back?
Yeah.
And then whatever. And it keeps happening to different characters. And there's always a big deal. It's always a last resort to put on the helmet.
Exactly. So those stakes just weren't quite there. But, the death of Dr. Fate worked so well that I can overlook all that. And then after this, we get a moment where Black Adam is seated on the throne, right? It's this classic comic book
Sure.
pose that he does. And I'm like, they're going to roll credits. Here we go. And then he's like, no, this feels wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And he smashes the throne. I thought that was a great moment, a character moment that worked really well and
Yeah.
made sense.
Straying away a little from the cliches of what you'd expect,
Right.
giving us a little
Showing his development too.
Right.
Because earlier
Right.
in the movie, he probably would have. And so at this point, he's learned from the Justice Society, from this family that he joins with, who they were fine. I felt like they were kind of a necessary part of the movie.
Right.
That it kind of got bogged down in their storyline a little too much at times for me.
I really enjoyed the uncle. I really actually genuinely thought he was funny and cool, and I liked him.
Yeah, he was fine.
The kid got a little annoying,
sometimes
a little tropey.
And his opening narration was not great.
The kid's opening narration?
Yeah, I didn't like it.
I thought it was fine. I really liked him on the skateboard and all that.
The skateboarding stuff was
Skateboard
cool.
action was awesome.
Yeah, that was fun.
I had a few problems with his mom.
Like, mom was fine. She was there to explain stuff.
Right. Yeah.
she's like a historian, archaeologist.
I liked her once they were all on Hawkwind's ship. And she's like, we have to work together to save my son.
Right.
And she gave that little speech. And that's cool. I enjoyed that part of her. Because it was just personal stakes for her.
Sure.
She wasn't worried about end of the universe or whatever.
Exactly. So. All in all, that's kind of our spoiler thoughts. Now we're going to talk about
Henry Cavill showed up. There's that one too. Henry Cavill Superman shows up at the end.
Yes.
And it's like, hey, Black Adam, you want to hang out and talk?
Yeah, so let's break this down. So
it's just like the ending of DC League of Super Pets.
Right. It's pretty much
except it's in reverse.
Right?
Yeah.
It does mirror that in a funny way. So if you've seen League of Super Pets, you know what happens here.
Right.
Mid-credits, we get a moment with Amanda Waller showing up at this,
or a drone image of Amanda Waller.
Right, a hologram. Shows up at the palace in Kahndaq where Black Adam is, and she says, basically, you better watch out because I'm looking out for you. And if you step a foot outside of your country, we're going to come after you.
Kahndaq's your new prison.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so he says, I'm the most powerful being on the planet. And she's like, well, there are other planets. And so she calls in a favor, and out of nowhere, we hear the sonic boom that we hear in Man of Steel.
Right.
And out from the shadows steps Henry Cavill, full Superman gear,
bright shining Superman costume,
curl,
little curl.
I mean, he
went all out and
traditional Superman look.
I don't know, was he smiling?
He was definitely smiling.
I think he was smiling.
Yeah, he was definitely smirking.
I couldn't remember. I was blinded by the S shield.
Right. Yeah, it was very bright colors. And he says, it's been a while since someone's made the world this nervous. I think referring to himself.
Sure.
Then he says we should talk, and
that's great. He doesn't fight him. He doesn't.
No,
his eyes don't go red and start shooting lasers. Right. He just says, "Hey, you want to hang out?
Right. Let's talk. Yeah. So they're gonna have a conversation. So that's Black Adam 2, the talk with Superman.
What a great film it'll be.
It's gonna be all in one room,
sitting down playing chess and talking.
So this gives us great hope. Obviously, we freaked out. Our whole theater freaked out. Very excited to have this actor back in this role. He is our Superman for our generation, and we're just excited to see where they take it next, because he obviously is passionate about the character, wants to play him more. Dwayne Johnson made this happen.
He's a great actor.
He is. And we got to give Dwayne Johnson so much credit for making this happen, because things were looking bleak before this movie. It didn't look like we were going to get any more Superman. They're going to reboot the whole universe. We didn't know what was going to happen.
We got to our darkest point. We lost Batgirl. And
after the Batgirl cancellation,
there was a big HBO merger. We lost the Caped Crusaders show.
Right.
I thought it was over. I thought DC was going to go bankrupt and implode.
I know.
But now we have something to hold on to. Always hold on to Smallville.
We have hope.
That's the thing we can hold on to.
That's right. Always hold on to Smallville. So we'll have to be, looking out for what's going to happen next. I mean, he's obviously talked about Black Adam versus Superman versus Shazam. He's talked about fighting the Suicide Squad, fighting the Justice League. I mean, he wants to do all kinds of big things.
Right. As long as he's the focal point.
Exactly. Well, I mean, look, he deserves it at this point. After this movie, Give it to him, I say. And so what I'm curious about
He should
is
show up in the Wonder Woman movie.
why not?
Kondak is like this other
Absolutely.
great world power.
Yeah.
Kondak
Well, now
Atlantis
that
and
Kondak has intergang technology,
Mhm.
they can truly become a world superpower.
yeah, like Wakanda,
Right.
but better.
Right.
Better than Wakanda.
Right. So moving forward, I'm just going to be interested in seeing who they bring in. So the JSA obviously has to grow. They've lost a member. So
Well, yeah, the JSA, I don't even know what their state is because it seems like they can just bring on members and members
yeah,
leave whenever, and it's like doesn't seem like
rotating roster.
they don't have like a solid team.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be kind of just an organization where they just bring in whoever.
Mm-hmm. So I would like to see Blue Beetle join because his movie's coming out next year.
Martian
Bring him in.
Manhunter.
Martian Manhunter, he's with the Justice League though, I feel like.
Sure.
I think Black Canary from Birds of Prey can come in and join. Introduce Hawk Girl, obviously. That has to happen. You already got Hawkman.
Okay.
There's all kinds of different characters. Sandman,
Wow.
Dr. Midnight,
I don't know the
Hour Man.
Man. Yeah, I don't know if we'll get all of them, but
well, I think they need a Just Society movie is what they need next. I would really think that's the route to go next. You can do obviously your Shazam stuff with Black Adam, Superman, Justice League, all that stuff. So it's all going to tie in, crossover. We'll just have to be patient and wait to see where they go next. They said that the Black Adam sequel is already in development. They're going to make it as soon as possible. All right, now that we've reviewed Black Adam, we wanted to jump into our ranking of the DCEU. So this is every DC movie that takes place in the shared universe since Man of Steel, okay? So we're not including stuff like Joker or The Batman because those aren't connected to this one shared universe, this continuous story that's being told. So
we're also not including the 2016 cut of Justice League.
2017 cut.
2017? 2016 was BVS.
You blocked it out. You
2016
blocked
was BVS, right? We're also not including the theatrical cut of BVS.
Correct. So it's the theatrical cut of Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice is not included. We're only including the Ultimate Edition, as we call it, the only edition.
The only edition.
We're not including what's been dubbed Justice League because that movie does not exist in our minds. So Zack Snyder's Justice League is the only Justice League movie. Ultimate Edition is the only version of BVS. So just so you know, moving forward,
it's because those are the versions
the director
were supposed
intended
to be made.
Yes.
Without studio intervention and other problems.
Correct. All right. So we're going to kick it off here. My number 11.
Our number 11.
Oh, it's both of ours?
Yeah.
Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad is the one that hasn't gotten its director's cut yet, right? So David Ayer has been very vocal about how this is not the version he intended. It was recut by a company that cuts trailers together.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like an extended music video, pretty much. I mean, look, it was trying to be Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, everyone was chasing that success.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we got a team of misfits. Oh, let's make it a fun, silly romp with pop music.
And they couldn't do what Guardians did because they didn't have James Gunn.
Correct. David Ayer was trying to make a much more serious, kind of intense, character-centric team film.
Mm-hmm.
A lot grittier. And they made it something else. So
he had great ideas. Some of his characters were really compelling.
The casting is
Diablo was going to be awesome. Deadshot was awesome.
I mean, Margot Robbie is great as Harley Quinn.
It's one of the greatest castings of any superhero film I've ever seen.
I agree. So there was a lot of potential here. It was squandered by studio intervention. It's still very watchable for me. You know, it's not like it's terrible on every level.
It's ugly looking and it's just gross.
Yeah.
And it's not very fun.
Yeah, I agree. It got 2 stars from me.
One thing I will say though is this is Katana. She's got my back.
I would advise not getting killed by her.
Her sword traps the souls of its victims.
Yeah, one of the greatest lines of dialogue in any comic book. It's just kind of unfinished is where I look at this movie. It's not really what it was intended to be. Every movie is made 3 times: when you write it, when you shoot it, and when you edit it. This is one of those where the editing process just ruined the film. 2 stars is all I can give it.
Editing has saved and destroyed many films.
Absolutely.
Just wound up being a canary in a coal mine.
Yeah.
What can we learn from this?
What can we learn from this? So, Suicide Squad 2016, even the extended cut they released on Blu-ray is not any better. 2 stars because some cool characters, good casting, some fun action.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it. So that's our number 11. My number 10 is Birds of Prey. And the hard thing about the DC movies is that I like all of them except for Suicide Squad. And so Birds of Prey is one of those that I gave 3.5 stars. I think it's a really solid movie.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed watching it. I like the kind of wacky nature of it. It's very, silly. We have an unreliable narrator in Harley Quinn
Yeah.
who's kind of telling the story. We don't
Mhm.
really know what's true and what's not.
Yeah.
So it's a fun movie to watch. It's just not one that I've been compelled to revisit. It's not one that I've really been like, oh, I can't wait to rewatch that and dive back in with those characters.
Mhm.
I think the use of Renee Montoya is good, not great. The use of Cassandra Cain is good, not great.
Okay.
Use of Huntress is great, definitely Huntress. I know you're going to want to talk about Huntress.
Love Huntress.
Use of Black Canary was excellent. I like what they did with her
Mhm.
character a lot, and so it's just kind of a little bit of a mixed bag as far as the characters go. I think Ewan McGregor is excellent as Black Mass. Such a unique take on that character. It was really fun. It kind of builds out the universe in a unique way. It has a lot of interesting visuals. The visuals are really cool. I just felt that certain aspects of it I didn't fully connect with, and it didn't have the kind of power that some of these other movies have.
Okay.
As far as the storytelling goes. So that's at my number 10. What do you have at 10?
My number 10 is Wonder Woman.
Whoa! Wonder Woman 1?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay.
Number
Tell
10
me
is
why
Wonder
it's
Woman.
so low.
And I think this speaks to how much I enjoyed the DC movies,
Right.
because this is a great film.
That's what I said about Birds of Prey.
It's very
They're all
good.
good.
It's the third act is really, really, really bad.
Okay.
Really boring, really
Okay.
dull, really gray.
Okay.
There's really fun Wonder Woman stuff.
Mm-hmm.
She looks great. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman is awesome.
Yep.
I like Steve Trevor.
Yeah.
I like all of the kind of band of misfits in the World War I group.
Yep.
They're all fun. The villain's terrible. All the villains are terrible.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Poison was her name?
Dr. Poison.
Dr. Poison. Yeah. She was, I think, the strongest of the villains.
Okay.
And had the most to say. And
even though she didn't say anything.
I know. Yeah. She had the most to say as a character.
Right.
Everything else, I think, fell pretty flat. But the Wonder Woman stuff was good.
Okay.
I just have a problem with everything else. It felt kind of dull and flat. And
you dislike the plot more, because it sounds like you like most of the characters except for the villain side. So the plot is more your issue.
I have plot issues. I have visual issues.
Okay.
I don't like how the movie looks at all. It's very gray and dull and kind of boring. And then I don't fully buy into the romance of Steve Trevor and Wonder Woman.
Okay.
The mascara is cool. It's just everything I like about this movie is done better in other movies.
Interesting. Gotcha. Okay.
Cool. It's a good arc for Wonder Woman, though. Her realizing that, like, hey, you can't just beat a bad guy and save everybody.
Right. Oh, I love
that's a great arc.
Themes of human nature.
Super good. All that's
love that. Really well done.
But I never feel any inclination to watch this movie.
Okay. I gotcha.
I never desire to see it.
How many stars?
I think I gave it 3.
3. Okay. Moving on to our number 9s. My number 9 is Wonder Woman 1984. So this is the sequel to Wonder Woman, came out in 2020, had a kind of botched theatrical release. All the pandemic stuff was going on and ended up getting released directly to HBO Max. So this one, it gets a lot of hate. This one is really low in a lot of people's rankings because it is very different from the original. I think people were expecting a sequel that was going to be similar in tone and visuals, and this one is not that. This one is a completely different looking and feeling movie.
It is as different as World War I in the 1980s.
Yes, exactly. And that's the point. So to me, that's why it works, is because it's so unique and so set apart, because it is so many years later and we're seeing Wonder Woman at a totally different time and a totally different place in her life, different world that she's in now, different characters she's surrounded by. And I really, really enjoy the visuals.
I do too.
Super bright and colorful.
This movie gave us the invisible jet, finally.
Gave us the invisible jet. It gave us Cheetah, who we've been
Yeah.
dying to see, um, her arch nemesis in the comics, and it just has this kind of
Pedro Pascal.
Pedro Pascal, great as Maxwell Lord.
Hmm.
We'll get into him in a second, but the visuals are so different and it's so bright and colorful. It harkens back to the Richard Donner Superman films, and that was what Patty Jenkins wanted to do. She's a huge fan of those movies. She wanted to kind of make a throwback superhero movie. So it feels like they went back in time and made a Wonder Woman movie in
Hmm.
the 80s. And so uh, for those reasons, I just really like it. The themes are what really draw me in. Maxwell Lord, Pedro Pascal's
Hmm.
character is so compelling to
So would you
me.
say this movie is good, but it can be better?
It's good, but it can be better. Absolutely. Like most movies, it has a lot of plot things that are convenient and scripts not fully
I don't care about
there,
that.
fully, but the themes, the message of the movie is
Hmm.
so good. Accepting reality,
Right.
living truth. Truth sets you free. It's just so well done.
Hmm.
Learning to move on and
Hmm.
accept,
Yeah.
loss and
Right.
all of the stuff that they
Yeah.
deal with is great. Steve Trevor is now the fish out of water.
Hmm.
Wonder Woman was in the first
Yep.
one. Just all those things. The comedy to me totally lands.
Hmm.
The action sequences are exciting and
Right.
engaging. Visual effects here, I think, are stunning. Great score by Hans Zimmer, the great
Hmm.
Hans Zimmer. He never fails. And so just a lot working in its favor
Yeah.
that made me enjoy it. Just certain things hold it back from being a great movie. This is another 3.5 star movie.
Okay.
It's not quite to the 4 or 4.5,
Hmm.
upper echelon of movies, but yeah, that's where I'm at. Number 9. What's your
Great.
number
My
9?
number 9 is Black Adam.
Okay, great. That
So
is
yeah.
that is my number 8. So we
Okay,
can both
cool.
discuss it
Yeah.
now. Yeah,
We
I
talked a
mean,
lot about Black Adam
sure,
and our review about it, but
right.
my main issues with the movie are it just feels a little standard
Hmm.
for a superhero action movie.
Right.
It doesn't really do anything
Totally new or
that
fresh.
really elevates it above
Yeah,
anything special.
right.
Um,
Outside of the character,
I
which I
like,
feel like is
yeah,
different type
right,
of character. And again, The Rock is playing a character, not
sure,
himself.
yeah.
So those are definitely the positives.
Hmm.
But just kind of generic script, kind of by the numbers jokes, that they try to throw in,
Hmm.
that just keeps it kind of more in the middle, not quite the bottom, not quite the top,
But
just kind of there.
it doesn't have the same problems as a lot of other generic superhero action
Sure,
films.
because it is fun. It's pretty fast
Fun,
paced.
fast-paced, colorful,
Hmm.
dynamic camera work, creative
Right,
action sequences.
right.
There's a reference to The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly in this movie where there's like a whole action sequence based on that one
Right.
scene.
Yeah, that was one of the things I forgot to mention that didn't work as well for me as the needle drops. A lot of the soundtrack choices to me
Okay.
didn't quite
There were
work.
one or two that felt a little off,
Yeah, felt a little like,
but yeah,
oh, why is that song being played right now?
I know you mean.
But
So yeah,
so
it's a I give it a 3. I know
yeah,
you give it a 3.5. So
right, right. What's your 7?
my number 7 is Wonder Woman 84,
Okay, okay. So you like
which we
this one a
just
little
talked
more
about.
than
I
me.
like it a lot more.
Yeah.
One thing you didn't mention
Hmm.
that I thought of while you were talking about it
Hmm.
was there's a scene where it's really Wonder Woman's whole arc of the movie. She's given everything she wants
Yes.
to
Right.
Steve Trevor,
Right.
and she's given him back, and then she has to deny it
Yes.
for the greater good.
Yes.
That's like a perfect superhero
Yes.
sacrifice,
Totally.
and it's very Spider-Man and it's very
Yeah. Right.
Superman,
Right.
and it really works. And then the
Yes.
whole that really, to me, emotionally tied the whole
Hmm.
movie together
I agree.
to this very sincere, colorful, optimistic,
Right. Right.
super fun movie that I really, really enjoyed a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. That is a good one. That is one that I like too, obviously, and I think they did a great job with the story, even though to me the structure and again the script has problems.
Sure.
The through line
Hmm.
of this message that they're getting across is so
Right,
important,
right.
and
Maxwell Lord's character has a really terrific arc,
he
and it's
does.
not a supervillain that you have to punch and beat
No,
up.
totally.
It's just a conversation that she has with him at
Yep.
the end, and it's so perfect
Love
for
that.
a superhero movie.
Yes,
Loved it.
love it. How different that
Hmm.
is.
And I like Cheetah, and
Yeah, she was
Cheetah's
fine.
whole story goes kind of through what Wonder Woman
Sure.
does.
Sure.
She's kind of a dark mirror of Wonder Woman.
Right.
Yeah, I just think the movie, I think it's far better than people give it credit for.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so now we're on to my number 7, which is Shazam. Shazam, I think, is so much fun. Basically a superhero comedy. I mean, they really lean into the comedy. Although, now that I say that, I think
Christmas
about
film.
it is a Christmas movie. It's all family oriented,
Mhm.
but there are some pretty dark moments and some scary moments
Sure.
with
Yeah.
the
The seven deadly sins.
sins. These creatures that come out of the
There's
Rock of
a
Eternity
wonderful scene in this movie
in the
where it's
boardroom.
just a boardroom meeting of these businessmen.
It's so quiet and calm.
Just these horrific monsters
And then-
come in
Yeah,
and just like
Tear it
destroy
apart.
everybody.
Start killing people in the most gruesome ways.
It's so incredible.
Yeah, David F. Sandberg directed it. He's got a background in horror. He did Lights Out. It's a good horror movie if you want to check out for October. And he did a good job directing it. You know, it's got great comedy, laugh out loud moments. Great. I really like the villain in this actually. Dr. Savannah, he's got a really compelling backstory and a compelling kind of motivation throughout this film.
I really
kind of an obsessive character.
Really like Shazam.
Yeah, Shazam was fun. It's a lot of fun. Zachary Levi, great job. The supporting cast, Jack Dylan Grazer does a great Freddie Freeman. Just that whole family, the Foster family, that actually gets along, and they're actually, you know, a real family. It's just really, really fun, really well done. Some cool action. You know, definitely has a lot of superhero origin, like learning your powers stuff that they do a lot of fun stuff with. You know,
I think it's done in a very creative perspective.
Right. It's a very modern feeling movie. You know, it's great on every level. I really enjoy it. All right, so my number 7, Shazam. What is your number 7?
My number 7 is Aquaman.
My man.
I love Aquaman.
Yeah, Aquaman's great.
It's colorful, it's fun, it's big, it's epic.
Very big.
It's like Lord of the Rings underwater for a minute there.
This movie is Jason Momoa personified.
Yeah. And that's I think its biggest strength and weakness.
Right.
Is that it also has this kind of almost music video-y moments.
Okay.
And very just showy offy.
Right.
Sometimes, which fits the character and it serves the story.
Right.
It's just not necessarily for me. And I like, again, it's super colorful and the action's really fun.
Things I never thought we'd see on screen.
Right.
Underwater battles with seahorses and giant sharks and octopuses playing drums. Just again, another one where I felt like they let James Wan go wild. Like, look at the comic books and just put that on screen. Go ahead.
I'm amazed they made Willem Dafoe into a mermaid. I mean, that's so cool that you're able to do that in this movie. And he gives a serious performance and it's cool. And I mean, it's good. It has an amazing action sequence with Black Manta through the city and so awesome. Some really creative and really interesting camera movements in the first action sequence with Aquaman as a baby, whenever they're in the house. And then his mom, Atlanta's like doing flips and stuff around that.
Cool.
It's so cool and so fun to watch. It's like, it's one of those like 4K movies. Like once you get a new TV, you watch Aquaman because it's that colorful
reference
spectacle.
Quality video and audio on that one.
Definitely. But it's great. I mean, it doesn't do anything too emotional to me. I just don't feel that deep of a connection to this version of Arthur Curry.
Okay.
It was good.
But how many stars?
I think I gave it 4.
All right, now we're on to my number 6, which is The Suicide Squad. This is James Gunn's version of The Suicide Squad. This is his take on it. It is a sequel to Suicide Squad. It is not a reboot. It continues the story from that first film. It continues the story from Birds of Prey with Harley Quinn, who's kind of the central figure here. And we get a whole new cast of colorful characters. And this
very colorful,
very
colorful in every sense of the word.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they're very bombastic. They're very over the top. The violence in this is crazy. I mean, it's one of the most violent and gory movies probably ever made in the comic book genre, up there with Deadpool. It is just bonkers, you know, and the characters in this are so interesting and
obscure,
very obscure,
B-list,
but surprisingly deep. You know, I mean,
that's what James Gunn does best. He takes the weirdos and the misfits, and then gives them real human relatable,
so relatable
struggles and problems.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah,
So
and that really shines in this movie.
yeah, he does that so well here. Every character has an interesting backstory. Every character has an interesting relationship dynamic with one
Hmm.
another that develop over the course of the movie. The standout for me is Rick Flag. Joel Kinnaman, I think, nails this role,
Hmm.
and he does such a great job playing the part and making us care about him and his mission.
Hmm.
But the same thing goes for Peacemaker, and the same thing goes for Bloodsport
Bloodsport
and
and Ratcatcher to me are
Ratcatcher,
that's like
Polka Dot Man.
so good. Polka Dot Man had a great arc.
They all have great stories that
Hmm.
help you understand who they are and why they're
Right.
doing what they're doing. The action sequences are phenomenal. This is a comic book come to life. This is James Gunn really letting
Very
loose,
much.
letting his creative mind just go.
Hmm.
Coming off of the debacle with Justice League, I feel like Warner Brothers was just like, you know what? Just let the guy make a movie. I mean, he obviously has had success over at
Right.
Marvel,
Yeah.
and I think they really just let him
Hmm.
loose, and it really paid off big time because this movie is just fun. It's fun to watch. It's very entertaining. The cast is excellent. Great
I give it
music.
5 stars because we got Star of the Conqueror.
Right. Yeah. When you get Star of the Conqueror, he gets a whole star all to himself. So this is at 4.5 stars
Yeah.
for me.
Hmm.
Great themes of redemption and teamwork and that kind of thing throughout
It
it.
gets a star for every point of Star of the Conqueror.
Exactly. Right. So yeah, that's my number six. What's your six?
My number 6 is
My number five is Aquaman. So perfectly
okay.
lined up there. I
Cool.
like it a little bit more than you. I gave it 4.5 stars. I think this is tons of fun. This is why we go to the movies. To me, this is pure escapism.
Hmm.
It is pure just joy to watch this. I'm a huge fan of this character. This is probably my second favorite DC character. I think he's awesome.
He's super cool.
He, has this great backstory. He's this king of this underwater kingdom. It's kind of a King Arthur story. His name's Arthur Curry, and so it has that element, that kind of mythological side that I'm a big fan of. And yeah, Momoa is great in this role. I
Hmm.
mean, no one thought when he was cast that he would be this perfect as Aquaman, but
Right.
he really is, and he brings his own energy to it. That's a little bit different from the comics, but still definitely has that same kind of vibe. I really like Orm,
Hmm.
Ocean Master in this. Patrick Wilson, great performance, very theatrical,
Hmm.
and that's the thing about this movie is it's not a super grounded, gritty superhero movie. It's
Hmm.
very much its own, very big, epic kind of storyline. Yeah, I'm just a big fan of this movie. I have tons of. This is one I do rewatch often.
Hmm.
This is one I can throw on anytime and just have fun with it.
Right.
I get what you mean about the maybe lack of depth. I feel a lot of empathy towards Black Manta. I think
Hmm.
his storyline is very,
Hmm.
very good. What happened to his father at the beginning of the movie, how
Yep.
Aquaman learns to show mercy.
It's
It's
good.
just a great kind of hero arc. He becomes the king, at
Hmm.
the end. He's kind of a very reluctant hero in the beginning. Tamira Morrison as Thomas
It's
Curry is
great.
so good. You already mentioned Nicole Kidman as Atlanta is
Hmm.
awesome. Just so many interesting things. I really like the trench sequence,
Very
where
cool.
James Wan goes full into his horror mode.
Hmm.
So there's so many things to enjoy in that movie that I just, again, never thought we would see on screen. So just overjoyed that we got that film. All right, so that was my number six, The Suicide Squad. What is your number six?
My number 6 is The Birds of Prey.
Oh, you really like
I
this.
love The Birds of Prey. This
Okay.
movie is like so fun
Yeah.
and
Or The
so
Fantabulous
colorful.
Emancipation of One Harley Quinn.
Exactly. Yeah. Just the title alone it personifies the energy of the movie.
Correct.
And it being all a POV from Harley Quinn, kind of I see this movie as just like her retelling of these events.
Right, right.
It's super over the top and crazy and it's violent and it's insane. And it's just like this fun girls' night out kind of movie
Yeah.
where this band of misfit weirdos go on this violent like killing spree
Right.
to fight this awesome villain, Black Mask,
Yeah.
who I wish he wore the mask more often, but it's
Right.
okay because he wears it pretty often.
Yeah, here's a few times.
Yeah, it's violent and it's crazy, but it's really colorful and it has a sincere heart.
Yes.
And it really stays true to what makes all of the individual characters special. And the action is just so energetic and fun.
Yep.
She's on roller skates the whole movie, and
Yeah.
it's just so cool. Huntress is the best.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead,
Mary
one of your
Elizabeth
favorite
Winstead,
actresses.
she's probably my favorite actress of all
Yeah.
time, and her doing Huntress was just such a dream
She brought
because
she brought the gravitas to that role that it
yeah,
needs,
yeah.
that movie needs too.
It's exactly what a orphaned assassin would
Right,
act like.
right.
She's just totally
Mm,
antisocial and
yeah,
weird,
right.
and
Awkward.
she's like great at killing people, but
Right.
very kind of a misfit even among
Hmm.
the group of weirdos that they have.
Right, exactly.
And yeah, anyways, I like the movie a lot. I think it's
Hmm.
really fun.
Yeah,
It goes maybe too far in a few places, but
sure.
that's just the kind of movie that it is.
Yeah,
I'd like to see more movies like it that break the mold and
right.
do more creative, different things.
Hmm.
It's a very singular, specific vision
Right.
that I enjoy.
Yep. Good one. All right. So that was my number five, Aquaman. What's your number five?
My number five is Shazam. Shazam is a quintessential superhero film to me. It personifies what DC does best with superheroes,
Yeah.
in that it's fun, it's
Hmm.
colorful, it's full of heart and personality, and it really feels like a superhero made for kids. That's
Right.
something I've always appreciated about Billy Batson,
Yeah.
Captain Marvel, Shazam,
Right.
is that he's a kid like me, and he's a superhero, and what kind of responsibilities come with that, and it also has this great family dynamic that's used throughout the film,
Mm-hmm.
and there's so many things I like about it. I like all the villains. I like
Mm-hmm.
the mythology of the world. I like all of Billy's friends and his social life and his family and his kind of journey through trying to find his mom and all that stuff. And
Right.
I thought that was all really emotionally compelling and really strong. And that laid the foundation for the fun action and the silly comedy. And it all felt very natural. Like this is how a kid would act, what a kid would do, especially one like Billy Batson. Um, but another thing that DC really has nailed is the costumes.
Oh
The
yeah,
costumes in the DC universe
for
are
sure.
second to none.
Yeah, I
They
agree.
are they are truly
Hmm.
exactly what superhero costumes should look like.
Right.
Super, super cool.
Yeah, I agree. Good. How many stars do you give that one? Four? Four and a half?
I want to say I give that one four.
Okay, great. Under my number four, it is Wonder Woman. 2017's Wonder Woman, the first Wonder Woman movie, her origin story. I think it is one of the best superhero origin stories ever told. Patty Jenkins directed it so well. Gal Gadot, perfect in this role. Zack Snyder casting her in BVS was a stroke of genius. The supporting cast here, Chris Pine, wonderful as Steve Trevor. I think he is excellent casting as Steve Trevor. He's got the kind of wit and charm that Steve Trevor has always had.
Mm-hmm.
He's a soldier. This movie opens up in Themyscira, and it is so beautiful to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Robin Wright as Antiope is great, kind of training her. That's opening on Themyscira is so bright, beautiful, and colorful. And then once she goes into man's world, it is the most bleak,
Mm-hmm.
gross, terrible looking
Right.
world.
Mm-hmm.
That juxtaposition, I think, is what works so well
Mm-hmm.
and is why the kind of, desaturated look works for the movies
Right.
because she's in this new world.
Mm-hmm.
She's learning all these things. It's a great balance that they struck between she's very intelligent, but she's very naive.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't know anything about this world. She's learning all these new things, and she's on a mission. She's going to complete the mission, and Ares is there to thwart her, along with General Ludendorff and Doctor Poison. I agree. The villain side is a little weak. Um, I don't mind the third act as much as most people, though. I know it becomes kind of a CGI action fest, but I think what works in it is what Wonder Woman has just gone through. She's just learned that no, defeating Ares isn't that's not how we're going to win this war. This is human nature is bad.
Mm-hmm.
And she from that point on, I think, is in despair, but what Steve does, his sacrifice inspires her
Mm-hmm.
to inspire humanity.
Right.
And so it's just that great kind of resolution to
Mm-hmm.
all of it at the end that I think works well. The emotional climax of Steve Trevor's death and all of that works really, really well. Earlier in the movie, we get great action sequences. She's using her lasso in really interesting ways, using the bracelets. Again, we really get the power of Wonder Woman in this. And so all of that stuff works well. I think the romance, I totally buy into it. And it just is a great looking movie. Her theme is one of the great superhero themes. So all in all, tons of fun, really emotionally engaging movie, and deals with a lot of interesting ideas as well. So that's my number 4. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is The Suicide Squad. James Gunn's The Suicide Squad.
Nice.
It plays to all of James Gunn's strengths as a director.
Yep.
It does a lot of really unique things in the genre. It very much plays into the casual, fun, not taking anything very seriously,
Right.
kind of superhero genre.
Yeah, and it kind of almost pokes fun at it a couple times too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because it is silly and it's aware that it's silly and it's fun. And it kind of just it has fun with the idea of a group of totally disposable characters.
Right.
And that's
it's very
a big advantage.
Very Dirty Dozen.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love its visuals. I love the characters. King Shark is like so great. I love
Sylvester Stallone as King Shark.
So fun.
Great casting.
Very emotional character. I mentioned Starro the Conqueror earlier. He's one of my favorite DC big villains that the Justice League gets to fight. And here he is at the Suicide Squad. And yeah, you mentioned earlier Rick Flag is a great character. And Harley Quinn carries over. And there's just one scene in particular that really highlights what I really like about this movie, and that's when Harley Quinn breaks out of the big castle. And it's just like the most colorful explosion of energy and excitement.
Right.
And it's just like there's cartoon birds flying around and like flower petals. And it's just awesome.
Yeah.
And there's so many another detail that I really love is the location titles are built into the environment.
Oh yeah.
So every time we go into somewhere, it's all natural in camera.
Right.
And then we move into the scene. And that's really creative and fun, kind of a
very much a comic book thing.
Yeah, very comic booky, very Scott Pilgrim versus the World kind of thing. So I enjoyed it a lot. I like the movie. I gave it, I think, 4.5.
All right, next up is my number 3, which is Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. This is an epic follow-up to Man of Steel, directed by Zack Snyder, and it answers all the criticisms that people gave Man of Steel, which I love.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about this without, because it's such a piece of the big story.
Right, exactly.
It's hard to, I mean, you can talk about Man of Steel on its own because it's its own
first part,
self-contained movie, and it's still telling its own thing.
This one builds off of that,
right,
and leads into Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Right.
So yeah, it's that middle chapter that just expands the world a lot. Obviously, we're getting Batman in this, Ben Affleck, perfect casting. Everyone doubted it. I didn't. I knew he was gonna be great. He was great as Daredevil. He's even better Batman.
Yep.
So you get him involved. You get Chris Terrio, the writer of his movie Argo, that he won the Oscar for. He's penning the screenplay here. Great dialogue. I mean, just so well written. You, of course, also have Jesse Eisenberg as a very unique take on Lex Luthor that a lot of people didn't care for. I think it's great. I think it's always good to do something unique and different. And I think he is still menacing in his own unique way, right? He's the smartest guy in the room, but he's very unhinged, and very awkward. And you just never know what he's going to do next. He's very much a loose cannon. He's great. Of course, Amy Adams is great at coming back as Lois Lane. It's got great moments with all these characters where they're kind of trying to determine, what their purpose is. Superman struggling with, should I be Superman? Is this helping the world? Is it not? Batman, of course, after that opening scene where we get his perspective on the final act of Man of Steel, where the destruction is happening in Metropolis, he's very much on a vendetta against Superman, thinks this is a real threat. to the world.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got that. You've got Lex Luthor manipulating all of them brilliantly. And so there's a lot of layers here. There's a lot, it's a
Mm-hmm.
dense plot. And we got a lot of characters we're dealing with. The opening sequence, plays into the movie in a big way. And the Ultimate Edition just fleshes everything out so much better.
It does.
30 minutes of footage does so much for Clark Kent
Mm-hmm.
specifically and Superman's motivation in this movie and just, fleshing out.
Much more clearly lays out the plot.
Exactly.
Much easier to understand what's going on and
Correct.
why characters are important.
Right.
Yeah.
So well shot, so well edited. Junkie XL and Hans Zimmer teamed up for this score, which is just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
The action sequences are second to none. I mean, there's very few other
Mm-hmm.
superhero movies that come anywhere near that
Right.
warehouse sequence
Mm-hmm.
or the Batman Superman battle,
Mm-hmm.
the Doomsday battle. I mean,
Right.
all of it is just, it gets kind of escalates bigger and bigger throughout the movie. And very intelligent movie, very deep themes on, hatred and, manipulation and coming to understanding one another and all these things, hatred, how it blinds you and how, anger can turn into rage and how that can, it's just really, really interesting
Mm-hmm.
storyline. And where it ends up is so compelling and interesting for all where the characters are
Mm-hmm.
and what it leads into. So yeah, this is top three. Zack Snyder did it again. So
Definitely. Yeah.
what's your number three?
My number three is Man of Steel.
Okay, that's my number two.
Yeah.
So we can both
So,
talk about that now.
right. Man of Steel is really, it's the most emotional connection I've ever felt to Superman beyond Smallville.
Yeah.
It's really a unique take on the character, a unique
Right.
vision, and it's just a beautiful film. It's just
Yeah.
very well shot, gorgeous to look at, wonderful sounding.
The visual effects are seamless too.
Yeah.
I mean, to this day, they just look incredible. The Krypton opening, like I fully buy that's a real place.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's so well fleshed out.
Incredible prologue.
Mm-hmm.
Really, in my mind, the definitive origin for Superman is that Krypton.
Yeah, and I like how this, like you said, it's an origin. It's also a first contact story. It's really about humanity's first contact with alien life.
Right.
And so that's the kind of angle that they went into it with, and the military response and all that. I think is something that works really, really well in this movie. That is sets it apart from other Superman iterations that we've seen.
There's a lot of weight. There's a lot of emotional weight in this movie.
Yeah.
Everything has consequence, and Clark kind of discovering what he's meant to do.
Yeah, he's very much wandering at the beginning of the movie. He doesn't know what he should do. He's kind of just taking odd jobs and and just he's kind of lost. And through this arrival of General Zod, he kind of discovers his origins and finds his true purpose, choosing between his adopted home and his homeworld where he was born. The two dads storyline where we have his adoptive father Jonathan Kent and his perspective on he knows humanity is not to be trusted. He knows that they'll come after him, and so that's why they've kept him in hiding and tells him to keep it a secret, willing to lay down his life in order to keep this a secret to protect his son.
It's interesting because Man of Steel really stays true to the Superman is a man idea.
Correct.
Of him as just a real person with regular people problems.
Well, that's why it's titled Man of Steel.
Yeah.
It's not Superman because he hasn't reached that point yet. He hasn't even discovered who he is. And so, the Man of Steel title, it really works for the story. It makes a lot of sense. And so, Snyder did a great job with this. Intense action. That Smallville battle is so good. Of course, the final battle is crazy. But really good. Michael Shannon as General Zod, I would put as one of the all-time best comic book movie villains.
Yeah, so that's your number two.
Yep.
My number two is Batman versus Superman, which we just talked about.
Great.
The only thing I really want to focus on with BVS is the infamous Martha scene.
Oh, that everyone hates. Sure. Yeah, we should talk about
that. I think this is the make or break moment of the movie.
Sure.
Because if this works for you, then the whole movie will work for you. If not, then I can see why people hate it.
Sure.
But to me, that scene is all about Batman and really over half of this movie is all about Batman.
Right.
It's very much his movie.
Mm.
And it's him in a very cynical state when
Right.
he's lost his Robin.
Mm-hmm.
He's lost all faith in humanity. He's
Mhm.
starting to really get down deeper into that darkness.
Right.
And starting to lose sight of justice.
Right. Branding people,
Right.
beating
Right.
them to a pulp.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's throughout all of Snyder's 3 films, that this is Batman's arc.
Right.
Is becoming more like Superman,
Right.
finding his humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So for Batman to have never seen or talked to or met Superman before the fight
Right.
is crucial.
Yes.
Because he's building up this image of Superman in his mind.
Right. And Lex Luthor's also manipulating.
Right. Of this alien invader who's inhuman, who's caused collateral damage. He's destructive.
Right.
And even a little bit in Batman's mind, you can see, if I had that power, I would not have done what he did.
Right.
I would have done so much better if I was him.
Right.
So it's this little jealousy, this little rage. This just
well, and it's his history too. With, I mean, he has that line with Alfred. How many good guys are left in Gotham? How many stayed that way?
Yeah.
So he's clearly had a history with guys like probably Two-Face who have turned bad, and so he's like, this guy, he might be our friend today, but he's going to turn bad, and then no one will be able to stop him. So I have to stop him.
Yeah, and he doesn't see Clark as a friend even remotely.
Doesn't see him as a person.
Right. Sees him as a weapon to be stopped.
Right.
And as a power that should not be in the hands of anyone.
Right.
So during that fight, Bruce is using every gadget in his belt. And finally brings him down to a point where he's about to kill him.
Yeah.
And he uses the last words of his father, which not just remind him of that traumatic moment, but also that Clark has a father, that
and
this is and a mother, and that this is a person.
Yeah.
And he was born, and he's bleeding, and he can live and die, and he's on our side. And this is the guy who the image in Bruce's mind of what Superman was totally has been destroyed by Lois.
Right.
Who shows up as this completely helpless person.
Who you can tell she loves this man.
Right.
You know.
And yeah, it's just it's so important.
It is
for Bruce's character to understand that, to understand.
Right. And it's not about people misunderstand.
Humanity.
People misunderstand that. They think when he says Martha, oh, our moms have the same name. Oh, cool. Let's team up.
It's not about the same
it's not
name.
about them having the same name. It's about the fact that he has a mother at all.
Right.
It's his mother's name is what Lois says. And he's like, you can tell Batman's like, his mother, what?
He has
this is a person.
He's a real.
You care about this guy enough to jump in front of my spear that I'm about to plunge into his chest.
Right.
It's all of that coming together in him, his detective brain going, and wait a second, I had this all wrong. I've been manipulated.
And it's even deeper than that. As the movie goes on, you can see it slowly cascade into Batman seeing exactly where he is and what point he's gotten to.
Right.
To now, he has become Joe Chill.
Right.
He's the guy with the gun pointed to Superman, pointed to the innocent person.
Right.
And that's what makes him instantly turn around.
Right. Exactly.
And stop.
Yeah.
Because he's realized that he's become what he sought to destroy.
Exactly.
And he's about to make another orphan.
Right.
So he's about to kill the orphan.
Right.
He has his,
Sure.
It's awesome. It's
so
cool.
It is so well done on every level. I think the movie has so many great images. There's the image of after Superman dies, them taking his body off the ledge, just like Christ.
That leads so wonderfully into Justice League, where Bruce now feels this remorse over that, because he almost feels like he did kill Superman,
right?
Even though he learned from him, that still led to his death.
Right.
Everything he did, the kryptonite weakening him, the crafting of the spear, all of it, playing into Lex's hand, it led to his death. So from his perspective, it is his fault.
Yeah.
So making the Justice League is his way of honoring Clark and honoring that symbol of hope that it represents.
Yeah. So let's jump into
both of
our number
ones.
one, Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Right.
This is the most epic, the most mythological superhero movie of all time. It is a 4-hour film, and this is fully his vision for what he wanted to do
Mhm.
with these characters
Yeah.
moving forward.
It's the quintessence of exactly what Snyder's doing with the DC universe,
Mhm.
of what every character means, of what they all represent. They
Yeah.
all have long, full arcs in this movie,
Yes.
and it's really all centered around Superman.
Yeah.
Even though he's not even in most of the movie.
Right.
It's centered around the idea of what Superman means.
Right. Well, you were just talking about Batman, the guilt he feels. He is forming this team to defeat this evil that's coming.
Mhm.
And so you have, obviously Wonder Woman back after her great introduction in Batman v Superman.
Mhm.
And you have new characters like Flash, Aquaman, and Cyborg, who kind of, each of them play into this movie in such a, I feel, seamless way where, Batman's trying to recruit them, these metahumans that he's found. And Cyborg is really the heart of the film.
Sure.
And his relationship with his father and his kind of tragic backstory as well. So each of them have come from kind of difficult backgrounds. They're all kind of lost. They're all wandering, much like Superman is at the beginning of Man of Steel. Don't really know what their purpose is. What should they do with these weird powers? Aquaman, he's half human and half Atlantean. He doesn't feel at home anywhere.
Mhm.
Barry Allen, his father went to prison for a crime he didn't commit, murdering his mother. So he's
Mhm.
trying to clear his name and kind of
Right.
living out on his
Yeah.
own.
I mean, it's actually such a long movie. We really can't go through everything
Right,
about it.
exactly.
It's over 4 hours long.
Right.
So it's to just generalize it
Yeah,
as the visuals are spectacular.
totally.
It's probably Snyder's best looking movie.
Yeah.
The characters are all rich and
Mhm.
thematic and deep,
Mhm.
and the movie, because of its length, has time to go into everything in depth.
Yes.
The villain is really, I think is really good. I think Steppenwolf works
great.
really well.
Yeah.
Especially
he has a
because
motivation.
right, he has a
Yeah.
motivation. He's
Yeah.
trying to go back home.
Yeah. And
He
it's not world domination.
It's not world
That's
domination,
secondary
yeah.
to him just wanting to reclaim his place in Apocalypse.
All he wants is to return to Apocalypse.
Right.
And he can't do it until he finds the anti-life equation.
Exactly.
So it's really just him desiring to please Darkseid.
Mm-hmm.
And Darkseid is this ultimate threat.
Yeah.
Who is at such a level of power
Mm-hmm.
that even for the moment that we see him, he's just like
you can
hardly
tell.
phased.
Yeah, and you can tell this guy means business.
Mhm.
This, if you don't know anything about the comics, you're like, this guy, he's gonna be a challenge
Mhm.
to defeat this guy.
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
even Steppenwolf's difficult to defeat. It takes
Right,
all of the
yeah,
team
the
to
entire-
defeat just
right,
him.
Right. They needed to bring back Superman to beat Steppenwolf.
Right, exactly.
And Steppenwolf was bowing down before Darkseid.
Right.
So it just
And
speaks
fearful
to,
of Darkseid.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it does so many things well. It tells its story very well. The story of these misfits coming together, right? It's the story of them finding a home, finding community with one another, uniting against this larger threat. That's kind of
And
the whole
it
film
concludes with such an optimistic, hopeful finale.
Yes.
Of this is where, like, it ends with a voice recording of Vic's dad,
right,
and him telling him kind of live and be free and
right.
change the world and use your abilities for good, and it kind of goes through a montage of every character, and they've kind of become the fully realized versions of themselves,
right,
where they can now be those iconic heroes. And that's why I think it's really the future of the DCU going forward, because of Justice League. Now we can have all of those quintessential superhero stories.
Right. If you don't go through the darkness of Batman v Superman,
sure,
the light of Zack Snyder's Justice League is not as compelling or interesting or moving as it would have been. If they had started with that, it just wouldn't be as impactful. Right. I feel like so.
It's a terrific film. Yeah, terrific film. I love it. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's long, but it's worth every second.
Absolutely. And I love how he divided it into parts and how he set it up, the aspect ratio, everything, every choice that he made, I think was just so specific to his vision. And I'm so glad he got to realize it. So yeah, that's a 5-star film. All of Zack Snyder's DC movies are 5-star movies to me. I think they're all perfect films. I wouldn't change anything about, just great stories. that he takes these characters so seriously, I think is why I really enjoy them. Yeah, that's our DCEU ranking. Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to leave your comment of your ranking in the comments below. Also, your review of Black Adam. What did you think of that movie if you saw it this weekend? Be sure to give us a like, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to get notifications of all our videos here at The Real World, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.